I was super excited. I immediately started texting my friends, like, can you believe this? Can you believe this?
Hearing Bolivia, like South America again, like we get to meet new people. It was just like, yes, God has a plan for us.
I was sad because we were going to go to French Polynesia, but at the same time, it was a new opportunity, a new door that got opened, and I knew that if God opened it for us, that there'd be something waiting there. I will admit the traveling was it was tedious, but that 10-hour layover, I got to know a couple of people a little more, so that when we were at the trip, it was just smooth sailing.
I enjoyed being able to sit in there for 10 hours with my friends and play stuff on guitar or whatever we were doing. It was kind of fun, actually.
So we got there and we were all obviously tired, and we come through and all of a sudden we hear welcome, and there's a bunch of cameras coming around us because they were videoing for their conference, and just these bright colorful skirts and hats and a huge welcome sign, and everyone gave us hugs and they were just asking us how we were, and it was just really cool.
I was really surprised because I knew that people were going to be nice because everyone's like, oh, everyone from other countries are always nice. But I wasn't expecting that. And so when they came in all these traditional clothes, it was like, wow, we're actually going to make a difference because they're so excited to see us.
Okay, as soon as we got on the bus and we started driving through Cochabamba, I felt like I was in a National Geographic's video.
It was very different. I was expecting it to be cleaner, but there was a lot of dogs and a lot of trash, but there were also a lot of people who were smiling and going about their day because it was normal for them and it was really new.
It's very crowded. There's so many people, they're just going about their daily lives and they're weaving through traffic like they're not gonna get run over or anything, just kind of in their own little bubble. And there were probably a bunch of them that had never heard about God before. And I was like, I want to reach them.
The day I was at construction, there was like a big pile of dirt. And so basically what we did for the majority of the time was we just shoveled the dirt and like moved it up, which was tiring, and there was only one job, but it was like really fun to be around other people and like their people that were helping us work. And it was just pretty fun.
I ended up on the brick moving team where there was like a wall of like 2,000 bricks. And they were all just stacked there, and they said, okay, well, we got to get it up to the top. So we had a bunch of people on the ground, like doing an assembly line, handing it to each other. They had someone on a step stool. They took the bricks and handed it up to someone else who was on scaffolding. And then they put it up on the roof. And then on the roof, there were a bunch of us where I was, and we would like pick it up.
So the first few days, I was pickaxing a kind of like a dirt wall, chipping away at that. And it was hard work. We were going and going and going, tiring work. And we realized we weren't going to finish it. So they actually brought an excavator in, and they did more work than we would do in probably a month. It was a cool situation, and the way I understand it is there's a little bit of a divine behind the scenes going on with the excavator. There were some problems, and eventually we were able to work it out, of course, through God's will.
Construction was really awesome. I had never done construction before, and it was fun, like bringing up all the brick and then making those massive piles. It was really nice because they brought us so many fruits and stuff to like refresh us, and they were so good. And the people were really nice and like always asking if we wanted water or something.
The food was so good. Like I don't think I've ever eaten any like bread with like beets and cheese like that. It was so good.
While we were working, the locals came with a bunch of mandarins that were like super expensive to them, and they just spent money out of their own pockets to feed us, to give us treats while we were working, and it was just amazing. It was super sweet.
They hadn't had a church in 10 years. They hadn't had a building in 10 years, and so knowing that we are a major part of, speeding up the process, it was really impactful because, we're here for a reason, and this is the reason.
Vision Clinic was by far my favorite part of the trip. It was really cool being able to translate for my teacher or translate for people there. Being at the Vision Clinic was probably the most authentic taste of the people we got. It was very real, very raw.
Before we got started, before anyone came up, I just looked into the crowd because we were at a school, and I just looked, and there was just so many people that were there for us, for glasses, and it was just that thought, that curiosity of how many people are we going to reach through this service, and it was just amazing.
So we had a scribe that would take their history, and then they went to Mr. Kevin, which I'm pretty sure was their favorite stop because he's such an enthusiastic person.
So with the autorefractor, the autorefractor is this device that you hold it and you're in a dark area and you tell people to look into the darkness at your camera sort of thing, and when they look at it, their pupils will expand, and using that, the autorefractor can look into the back of the eye, the retina, and see the vision and basically tell you the prescription, which is really, really cool and really, really helpful.
And then they came to the visual acuity lines, and we checked how far they could see.
I did visual acuity the first day, and it was really cool because I tried to communicate with them, and they didn't always understand what I was saying, but even when they thought I spoke Spanish, they just start chattering off. I'm like, oh no, I don't know what they're saying.
I had lots of interesting experiences with people who couldn't even see the biggest letter. It was wow, that's insane. And I would try using a different thing for them, and they still couldn't see. So I would have to literally just write X's on there. But then once they got the glasses and they could see, it was whoa, that's pretty awesome.
So I was one of the pointer people, so I would just point, and it was kind of really hard because everyone was wearing masks, and so they were very soft-spoken and I couldn't hear, so I didn't know if I should go to the left or go down. And so eventually Brayden and I just got into this rhythm where he would just say okay, and then or just go to the left, and so eventually it got pretty easy.
And then they sat in line to see the doctor. And then they would see the doctor, and he would try to help them, really discuss their problems and how he could help. And then after that, they went to Miss Sabrina and Miss Kazia, who were in the dispensary handing out the glasses. And I think, even though the doctor's a huge part, when they finally put the glasses on, for them, it's just this awakening, and it's they can finally see, people got their lives and their jobs, and just they could see their life again. And there was one guy, he just started crying, and he was a guy, he's a worker, but he put the glasses on, and then he looked around, and he's I can see. And then he walked over to my dad, and he's thank you so much. And he started crying, and he was just so thankful that he would never have had this opportunity to see, and it was just a huge blessing to watch.
Tenemos organizado, tenemos un concierto con estudiantes que vienen desde Estados Unidos, y hoy estamos felices porque tenemos a una de las misioneras que están aquí. So welcome guys to this.
Well, I guess every concert, even though it was the same songs we played all year, it was such a big blessing to just play in front of all these people, and all the people watching virtually, just knowing that what we're playing had such a big influence, and we could bless other people in a totally different country than ours.
It was very stressful because we hadn't had enough practice. We were in a higher elevation, so we couldn't breathe as well, and wearing masks, it was very different, and we had trouble catching our breaths, and it was scary because they were live streaming, and with the screen it was they were looking at us. So it was very scary, but by the end of the concert it was pretty good, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so when we got there in the concert and they said they pushed it further because some students were still coming and they wanted them to hear it, it really started stressing me out because I was oh no, we're not ready. And then they're okay, you need to start. And we were just in the middle of practicing, and we're oh no, I really hope this goes well. Just doing that was incredible for the fact that we were performing for hundreds of people. It's just an experience you'll never forget.
I was thinking, okay, this is scary, but hopefully someone will get a blessing out of this. This many people, someone's bound to feel something.
So I'm not stage shy, I'm not people shy, so I wasn't really nervous. But at the same time, even me who doesn't mind stuff like that, I felt we had a lot of pressure on us, especially because Miss Ann, the music director, didn't get there with her kids till way after, right before the performance. So there was a little bit of pressure, but I think we came out of the situation very blessed. We had angels singing with us.
I preached the first Sabbath and I was really scared. I've spoken before, but it's not like this.
I had never preached in my life before, and I found preaching to be a really awesome experience. Our translator was amazing.
We had a relatively small congregation each night. We had around 5 people, but they were the same 5 faithful people. And throughout the week, they actually went to the vision clinic. And when they came the next night, they all were wearing their glasses. So they were having a really hard time like seeing the screen, but they wrote down each Bible verse that we said. And there were like tons for each sermon. And when they got their glasses, they're like, I can see the Bible verse, and so they're just like writing down the Bible verse, and it was so fun to watch that.
When I got up there, all my nerves were gone. Like, it was just incredible. And I just spoke like I've never spoken before.
So our VBS was, like I said, we were at a poor church. We had a lot of kids come out there. Specifically, we had kids that were coming out by themselves without their parents. That shows the dedication even of the children.
So when I got to VBS, I was super scared because that's how my nature is. I'm anxious about it until I actually do it. So I was like super anxious about doing VBS, about kids judging me. And when we got there, it was like a really homey environment.
We would usually start VBS by singing songs. Then we would do our nutrition talk, mainly focused on the Bible stories, and which we would always act out, and it was really fun.
I think the VBS was impactful not only to the kids, but was impactful to me, showing the faithfulness of the children in these countries. They're yearning for God.
The last Sabbath, I made an appeal, and right before I made it, I took a deep breath and I said a silent prayer, and I just started into it. And I didn't make just a baptismal appeal. I made like, if you would like to renew your relationship with Christ, or if you like Bible studies, please come forward. And I don't even know, it was like 15 or so people came forward, and I couldn't hold it together. I started crying because it just made me so happy that God used me as an instrument for Him, just preaching for Him, that it made these people make that decision.
I don't know, throughout the week it felt awesome, and then at the end, once I watched people get baptized, it was really an amazing thing to witness, like watching the fruits of your labor. It was really great.
Knowing that our group had a part of that, and that it was because of us that they decided to take that final step, it was incredible because, you know, like I said, this is a mission and we're here for a reason, and this is the reason that we're here.
Yeah, so we had 2 baptisms at our church. And the funny thing was, our sound guy was one of the ones getting baptized, and we didn't know he was not Adventist. And it shocked me. He walked up forward, and I'm like, no way. And I was just so excited that he was getting baptized because we had gotten to know him as a friend. And the church allowed me to give him his baptismal gift of a Bible and stuff, and that was just really cool because I felt like I'd bonded with him that week, and it was just exciting.
It was sad to leave them. It felt bad to leave them. But what felt good is knowing that we left them with an impact of help, of kindness, of love.
It was really sad. I mean, like, I would be hugging these people knowing that this is the last time I'm hugging them. And they all gave us gifts. Like, there's one little girl who made Lydia and I handmade bracelets. And it was just so much fun because, you know, someone actually took the time to do something for us, and we haven't even known each other for barely a week. It was really cool because we were driving up the mountain. The mountain itself provided an amazing view. And so thinking that there's a view better than this, it was mind-blowing because I couldn't even imagine a better view.
We were driving up and I'm like, okay, are we almost there yet? It didn't seem like it was that far up, but I guess it was. And we got there and it's this giant statue and I'm like, man, this thing is really big. And it was really cool because the lighting, their sun was right behind his head, so it was like illuminating Jesus' head.
The first excursion was when we actually went out and saw a little bit of the land in Bolivia. I really enjoyed this part of the trip because of one thing. It wasn't the flamingos or really anything else, except when we were driving through, it's a really flat plain and we had these massive mountains, biggest mountains I've ever seen. And the majesty of the sky, the blue sky, no clouds on these mountains was just incredible. It was beautiful. It was like getting a little bit of heaven.
The transition from dirt to like complete salt was like instant.
It was insane just looking at it. Like just everywhere was just white.
It was like being in a movie scene. You know, I felt like something really cool was about to happen. And just from the environment there, it was a really cool feeling just being in that white open space.
The night before we were driving through mountains that were huge mountains, and now we're in a wasteland of just salt. And there's nothing for miles and miles but salt. It was incredible.
My favorite part was probably going to the sea of glass.
The white part did not compare at all to the wet part of the salt flats. The mirror effect, it was like walking on the sea of glass in heaven. It was beautiful. I can't wait to do that again, whether that be on this earth or in heaven.
Seeing just one sunset would have been like, wow, thank you God for this incredible, view. But then seeing it twice, it was like, wow, you're multiplying it, God. That's incredible.
There's this moment where I just stepped out of the crowd. Miss Candy was passing by me and I said, can you imagine what heaven would be like? And she said, heaven would be 10 times better than this.
I think that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, more than the Grand Canyon, more than the mountains the day before. That is the highlight of the beauty of that trip.
When we were toasting, I couldn't stop thinking that this is going to be the last time I'm ever going to see some of these people.
It was a really good finish to the entire trip. It was like something to give us closure. And I really felt closure with the translators that we've been with my friends, with the community in this beautiful place. It was a perfect closure, perfect ending for the trip.
The most spiritually impactful part of this trip was once I saw the people get baptized, because at that moment I was like, wow. Like, I felt like that moment was when I was the closest to God. Like, I literally felt God working in these people and I could just see it happen. And I was like, this is real and this is awesome. That was when I was like mostly spiritually impacted.
I'd say our meetings, the first night we went to this house and they were non-Adventists. None of them were Adventists. I was really, really hoping that it would touch them. And what touched me the most was I was sitting there and there's this young kid. He's probably 15, 16. And he's enthusiastically flipping through his Bible. And he's like, what verse was that? And we'd repeat it and he would flip again. And he's like, can I read it? Even though we were the ones reading it. And we're like, yeah, you can. So we let him read it. And just to have non-Adventists there, they were throwing out answers to the questions we had and wanting to read the verses. Like, they were more enthusiastic than the actual church people. And that's not meant in a mean way at all, but that filled my heart with joy.
It was one night. It had been kind of like a rough night at VBS. And so I'm just like sitting on my bed, kind of like upset because VBS hadn't gone that well. It was kind of a little rough. And so I'm like, you know what? When in doubt, pray. So I started praying. I'm like, God, I couldn't really feel anything tonight. It was kind of disappointing, but I know that there's a plan. And so I was doing this and I walked up and I looked out the window because it was a pretty sunset. And so I was just praying to God, letting giving out my heart, and then suddenly I just feel like this breeze come through the window and hit me in the face. And it was like, wow, that's God's answer to prayer. He's there. Tomorrow's gonna be better. It's gonna be a new day, and God is with us on this trip.
Going into this trip, I wasn't really too close with God, and one thing that really got to me was like, even though we separate from God and that we stray away from Him, He will always wait for us. And that's what I felt like. I just felt like that was the moment that He was like, if you're ready, you can always come back to me. And I don't know, that was an amazing part, to just go back to Him. And I don't know, in that trip I got closer to God and closer to some of the people that, you know, made that possible for me to get closer to God. And just that whole thing overall, it's a whole spiritual journey, and each and everything that happened, it's just an experience that, you know, contributed to it all.